This is TWiT.
The FTC asked the court for a temporary restraining order.
You know what I love about this story, Leo?
What do you love about this story, Paul?
There was a news report about a week or two ago that claimed that Microsoft, according to sources at Microsoft, they were considering a cunning plan, as Baldrick would say, to just consummate the acquisition, like to screw the
Just
regulators.
do it. We're
right?
done.
Just
We're
do
doing
it.
this. Yeah.
In other words, I almost said the legal version of a flight risk, the antitrust version of a flight risk, right? So I thought, when I saw this FTC lawsuit or the filing, I thought to myself, man, this is why they're doing it, but they just can't, they're not going to be able to say that, right? They'll have some other justification.
Well, I thought they
that's
said
literally
it.
why.
Yeah.
They literally said it. Yeah. That's exactly why.
They want to forestall any, but
right.
So I'm confused. So if Microsoft went ahead, the FTC could still say, yeah, unwind that deal, right? I mean,
that's right. But how hard is it to unwind a deal? We just talked about that, right? We just mentioned it. We didn't really talk about it. But like, how do you unwind something? Like it gets to be difficult. You know, the other half of this is, you know, the CMA in the UK, of course, it blocked it as well. There have been reports that Microsoft has said, you know what, if the rest of the world okays this, we're just going to do it. Screw the UK. And you get into a weird kind of situation where these products get to be sold all over the world. What are you going to do? Not have Activision Blizzard and Microsoft products sold in the UK? I mean, it kind of pushes the point.
That's the option there. You know, I read the FTC play the other way around. This looks like a mechanism to force the FTC to make a decision. Like the reason to get the injunction is to expedite the case.
So that, by the way, that is the reason. And from Microsoft's perspective and from Activision's perspective, this is the good news here, because Microsoft had said that they would finalize this acquisition by the end of their fiscal year, which is June 30th. It's getting right down to the wire.
Yeah, here we are, 2 weeks out.
The hearings for the FTC would have been in late August. By moving this into a federal court, it can be expedited, which it is. Now the hearings are next week, which is before the end of Microsoft's fiscal year. There is actually a chance this deal could go through on time and before the end of Microsoft's fiscal year, which would avoid Microsoft having to pay a penalty of, I believe it was $3 billion. Which they would just hand in cash to Activision Blizzard if this acquisition did not go through. So to me, that is fascinating. And I have to think this was Microsoft's cunning plan. This was the idea was, let's slip this idea that we're a flight risk, forcing them to seek an injunction, which pushes it into federal court, which expedites it, which puts this thing before the end of the fiscal year. I actually think this was Microsoft's plan. Not all along, but this was Microsoft orchestrating what just happened, which, you know, if true, good for them.
And then the next phase of this is like, well, you have to have the FTC on board. It's an American company, ultimately. You can call it multinational all you want, but the reality is the FTC could be leveling fines and so forth nonstop, which I would wonder if the CMA on the UK might do, but only if they actually break a rule of some kind. So just saying, okay, well, these products are not available in the UK, so it has no impact on UK customers.
Well, there's also Microsoft is appealing this UK decision, and there's a possibility. I don't know how the UK legal system works, of course, but I assume it involves sticks and bones and stuff. But
guys in wigs, if I remember correctly.
Powdered wigs.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, I mean, there's a possibility they could win on appeal there as well. The problem with antitrust, and I was talking to Brad about this morning, is that antitrust is not only can't keep up with changes in technology, which is just true of law in general, right? But it's also just deliberately vague, and that can be really problematic. And in this case, the UK has said, or the CMA has said, Microsoft has a dominant position in this market that we call cloud game, game cloud streaming, or whatever you want to call it, game streaming. And okay, Microsoft's argument is, well, there's this market called gaming, and game streaming is like this thin little sliver of a line of usage that has nothing to do with what most people do, and we don't really see it ever being a huge chunk of it. So when you think about it in the context of gaming, there are companies that are dominant in gaming, Apple and Google on mobile, Sony and consoles, however you want to define that market. We're not dominant anywhere, and if we succeed in getting this acquisition, we become bigger. It's better for us. It's better for our customers. But we don't end up dominating. We don't dominate anything that matters, right? So we'll dominate this cloud gaming thing, but there's nothing going on in cloud gaming.
Yeah,
so
both guys will be really excited about that.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of hinges on semantics or definitions or however you want to, market definitions, whatever you want to say. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But this was an interesting little overtime, gambit on Microsoft's part. I think that
did they pull this too late? Like, shouldn't they have done this a month ago?
The FTC?
Yeah,
Microsoft and forcing the FTC stand.
But did the judge, by the way, give them the injunction?
The expedited hearing for next week. Yeah,
of course. Yep.
But he did the two things side by side. Okay, there's an injunction, but that puts an impairment on the company, so we should accelerate the company's injunctive relief.
Oh, good. Because otherwise, it would have been August when the administrative judge looked at.
There was also
this.
I love the language of it too. It's like, we're preventing Microsoft and acquisition from finalizing this acquisition that they had planned. But we're also, just to be clear, there's no other version of it that we're going to accept either. You can't come to some other deal that's like a lesser. In other words, like Microsoft or Activision could say, we're going to sell Call of Duty and we're going to sell the rest of it to Microsoft. What they're saying is, no. We get that you have all these little ideas about how you can kind of get around what we're trying to prevent. We're not going to allow any of it. But now they'll be able to present their case in court. And I think this is where things get really interesting, because I think Microsoft has a wonderful case to present.
Yeah. But it is a $3 billion case. If anything other than a win happens here,
$3 billion floats.
There's no chance to not pay the breakup fee, essentially. Unless they're willing to negotiate an extension in terms. But I can't imagine why Bobby Kotick would. It's $3 billion.
Well, because I think for him personally, he has got this. It's not golden; it's a platinum parachute that he's going to have,
and iridium, like it's
whatever like unobtainium parachute. Yeah. That might be why. I mean, $3 billion is $3 billion, but what they want to do is sell the company for $69 billion. So
yeah, and he'll do very well with that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he gets.
I wonder if the breakup fee again is a forcing function to the courts. Right. It's like, this is your inability to execute, to make a decision here is risking a 3 comma number.
Yeah.
But there's always a breakup fee. I mean, that's inevitable. All of these deals have breakup fees.
Here's the thing.
It's usually not $3 billion, but it's sometimes a lot,
But just looking at the deal in general, I feel there is no logical argument to be made against Microsoft acquiring this company. Now,
I agree. I agree.
I think anyone who knows what they're talking about would, of course, they would think that. But if you disagree, let's just
which the FTC apparently does.
Well, and Sony literally said that the CEO of Sony, whatever the company's called, the Sony America, basically, literally wrote to Activision going back and forth and said outright, "Look, we don't care. We just don't want this acquisition to happen." It's literally that dumb. So there are people out in the world who we don't like Microsoft. We don't like this idea of this giant company owning more of some market. It doesn't really matter. Like, I'm not thinking about it clearly, maybe, but it doesn't matter. I just don't like big becoming bigger. I go, fine. But the thing is, the thing you can't really argue against is, let's pretend game streaming is a market. It's a market. It's going to be a market. It's going to be the biggest thing in the world. What Microsoft is offering is the same thing they offered with Call of Duty, which is, we'll put our stuff everywhere. We're not going to restrict access to games. So if Sony, actually they do, it's in the news later, Sony is testing a game streaming service for PS5. They've been talking about this for a long time. This is going to happen. There are other game streaming services that Microsoft has already had deals with regards to different things related to Xbox, Call of Duty, Activision, etc. We'll just offer you that same deal, 10 years. We'll give you 10 years. Everything we do, we'll make sure it goes on your platform too. This answers any actual complaint. So if the UK CMA is serious about this, that cloud gaming is the issue, and if the FTC, which is frankly colluding with the CMA, is also making the same argument, well, that just throws that all away. So if you can present this in court and say, we are literally meeting every issue they have, I don't see how this doesn't go through.
Mm-hmm.
And your only argument, because I just don't like it.
Yeah.
It's like, I get it, but
it makes me sad.
It makes me crazy, So anyway, we'll see what happens, but it's dumb that
I'm excited that
it's
it's coming to the head by the end of the month. Like,
yeah.
Watch this space, because it's going to come up next week and it's going to come up the week after that.
Yeah, sure is. 2 days of hearings next week. So we'll see. Yeah. it's sad that it came down to this. And I think a lot of people, and myself included, have thought, like, why does Microsoft even bother at this point? Like, there's so much headway here. Like, why are they're getting so much pushback? And
it really sets a bad precedent to walk away on this too. Yeah. This deal's dying not because it's not for the greater good or that it causes any specific harms. We just don't like it. That's terrible precedent.
Listen, I love that government has woken up to the notion that big tech is bad. Thank you.
Where were you a decade ago?
Yeah, exactly. 10 years too late. Thank you. But 10 years. But you're going to survey the world, and this is what you're going to go after? Yeah. Really?
But it's not going to get past a judge. I'm sorry, because the judges.
What do you mean?
The FTC is not going to. This is not going to succeed because the judge is going to say exactly what you just said. What is the harm? Where is the harm? That's their job. And I think that in failing the FTC proving harm.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're agreeing with me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that you could. That was a straw man argument you were making, and I was just punching it with you.
Oh, I got you. I'm sorry.
Together, we were.
God, Leo, I thought I just made a compelling case.
No, you did. But the court. This is the whole why it's bizarre because the court is going to
sleep last night. I'm concerned.
No, I didn't. I'm so tired. This episode of Tech Break is brought to you by ACI Learning. Your IT skills are outdated in about 18 months. Stay ahead of the curve and strengthen your IT expertise with affordable certification-based learning that will launch or advance your career. Individuals use the code TWiT30 for 30% off a standard or premium individual IT Pro membership at go.acilearning.com/twit.